All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Police Station Task Force meeting for April 22nd. The roll call has been taken. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest for anyone? Seeing none, we have no presentations or delegations today. Can I get a seconder to place item 4.1 on the floor? All right. And with that, I think we'll have an overview before discussion. Do you want to take it away?
Okay. Mr. Chair, we have before us report number 2024-253 titled Brantford Police Service Facility Redevelopment Project Update. And there are two recommendations in section 3 of the report. Item 1 is the recommendation to receive staff report 2024-253, which is this one. And item 2 is that staff be directed to reimburse all building department fees already paid and any further building department fees waived. Section 4 quickly highlights the background on the report, which is simply to provide the Police Station Task Force with an update on project aspects that have taken place since report 2024-81 was provided February 5th to the Police Station Task Force. Section 5.0 is the analysis, beginning of analysis. 5.1 is the first item on the list, still on page 1, related to site plan control and building permit applications. The Brantford Police Reconstruction Project's building permit, number BN 2024-0201, has been received by the building department. I'm in communication often with the key contact performing the review. She's about 60% complete today. So we're just touching base quite often to see any progress that needs to be made through the contractor or through the consultant, sorry. And I'm in communication with her about that for progress and next steps. So work is ongoing for the issuance of the hard copy of the building permit in the next few days. And that will be posted to cloud permit for printing. That permit number will be provided to the general contractor and a hard copy will be posted on site. In addition to the building permit, full site plan approval was provided to the project and the file number you can refer to there is SPC 15-2023. Building permit fees are in the amount of $537,834 and they were processed internally on March 21st. Section 5.2 discusses the tourism building. So all work is complete. We're doing preventative maintenance and monitoring for the building. Pest control, fire inspection, HVAC cams, and so on are occurring at regular intervals. So we just refer to tourism building at this point. When we build a 3-story addition on the north side of the building, when that's completed, the police will vacate the tourism building. So we anticipate that will be toward the end of 2025. Section 5.3 reviews project milestones. Since detailed construction development started in November, you can see on the project milestones table on page 3 that we've completed the tendering process. The project's now moving towards contract admin and construction phase. On March 20th, the request for quote closed on bids and tender sites. Of the 4 pre-qualified contractors, 3 submitted bids for the city to review. So we know this publicly now. It's also posted on the bids and tenders website. That Mooloo Blamey came in at $51,850,000. Harbour and Cross Limited came in at $61 million. Collaborative Structures submitted their bid at $68,900,000. And it's not in the report, but PCL was the 4th pre-qualified proponent, and they did not submit. Based on these 3 submissions on April 8th, the city awarded to the lowest respondent, which was Mooloo Blamey. So the contract was awarded, but it was awarded without 2 of the 4 provisional items. So item 1 was the solar photovoltaic panels that was removed, and item 3, existing roof upgrade removed. The contract was awarded in this way due to available financing and to award in a timely fashion. So further detail will be presented in section 6 with regards to that and financial implications. The letter of intent was issued by the city's purchasing department on April 8th. And Mooloo Blamey had 10 business days to provide the required conditions of award. And following review and acceptance of these conditions, an agreement will be issued for execution by both parties. city and general contractor. Next steps include a kickoff meeting, which we've scheduled for this Friday, April 26th. It's on site at the police station, actually in this building, in this room. And I'll be there as the city's project manager along with Mula Blamey and the prime consultant RPL. And it's anticipated that Mula Blamey will, once the contract is signed, mobilize on site and begin construction immediately. And we have a groundbreaking ceremony that's scheduled for May 17th. I believe that you have the invitation as well from the mayor's office. 5.4, section 5.4 pertains to net zero impact on the project. So with the provisional items of the existing roof upgrade and the solar panels removed, the building will be net zero ready rather than net zero carbon. So essentially this means walls, windows, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, they've been upgraded, but the existing roof will remain as is. So I call to your attention that removing the provisional existing roof upgrade from the scope of work for the project, and additional redesign of the building mechanical systems will be required at an additional cost for items such as increased quantity of heat pumps, larger air conditioning units, so the building automation system can continue to balance heat loss and gain through the existing roof envelope. And the cost breakdown is presented in section 6.2. In September of 2022, report 2022-563, and you can see it footnoted here on page 4. It was approved by council and directed staff to proceed with the inclusion of net zero. The engineering sub-consultants developed energy modeling that determined energy use intensity, calculated thermal bridging, including parapets, flow rates for fixtures, and so on, in order to reach what we're calling net zero carbon version 3 standards. So to build the police service facility to that standard, the provisional items, upgrade to existing roof and solar panels will be required to award to the contractor. So that brings us to financial implications, section 6. 6.1. Council approved the project budget at $56,700,000. The remaining funds available in order to award were $50,833,621. This includes expenses and encumbrances to date. So per section 5.3, with the lowest bid at 51.85, you can see the breakdown of the tender and how it's included in provisional items on page 5. This is where we kind of get into the detail of financial implications. So you can see there's 5 items listed there. Where it says awarded, we included it in the contract, and where it's provisional, we excluded those. So by keeping the cash allowance in the project, the award amount is $50,719,000 plus HST. And this doesn't include contingency in the budget. So to that end, the city's PM and consultants will meet with contractor and do some value engineering exercises for further savings. And I have a list of what those items are, and it'll be, I anticipate that it will be a positive, mutual discussion. And it will include a review of the cash allowance list. So section 6.2 discusses potential additional fundings, excuse me. And you can see in table 2, this is where we break out potential additional costs. There are 5 line items there to review in order to proceed in line with the original design intent of the building and its infrastructure. So I'll just read them very quickly. There's a building permit fee that's referred to earlier in the report, and it's basically $500,000 that we're looking to review and potentially reimburse the project for. And then we have $750,000, which relates to redesigning mechanical electrical systems that we spoke about before. Now, if we choose not to redesign, we would go to the $900,000 line item, which is the existing roof, increasing the insulation to what it should be. And that would then be net zero. So the building permit fee has been transferred and posted, just so you know, for the fees applied to the project. Staff recommend proceeding to have the fees waived and returned to the project account. So section 6.2.1 speaks about net zero carbon. So staff were directed to proceed with inclusion of net zero in September 2022. Design was completed in this fashion, however, in order to award the project, right? So we had to make sure that we provided the lowest bidder with the project. So installation of solar panels and the upgrade to the existing roof can be applied back into the project at this time. The total cost for that would be $1,131,000. So to move forward with this option and to fund a project budget contingency, the addition of the below recommendation is required. That the additional budget requirement of $2,131,000 for building to net zero carbon be funded from the issuance of debentures. Section 6.2.2 discusses the mechanical system redesign. So it would cost comparatively $750,000. This is including to note that the cost to redesign the tendered provisional cost at $150,000 difference. So best value for spending would be to proceed with section 6.2.1, building to net zero carbon. We will ultimately see operational savings and GHG reduction. So in order to move forward with option of mechanical system redesign at $750,000 to fund a project contingency, the addition of the below recommendation is required, that the additional budget requirement of $1,750,000 for re-engineering the existing roof be funded from the issuance of debentures. So it's important to note that value engineering will continue through the course of the project. This was done as a request for quote, so that we could come back upon award and discuss some of the cash allowance items and some of the items that are built into the base bid. Now I could go on, but climate and environmental implications are really, really important to this project. And you can read that in your own time, of course. But there are some very accurate calculations here, and we've worked hard to make sure that our city's climate change specialist is involved in checking what the engineer has said. But there are some interesting things here that if we read the first paragraph, for example, your electricity bills, if you have heat loss in the roof, will go up and so on. The building was designed to meet net zero standards. And that's basically what section 7 discusses. And we want to make sure the building has a long building life cycle as well. So in conclusion, of course, we continue to work well with the police and we thank them for their patience. We're at the point now where Little Blamey has been awarded the project, and it's just working out some of the nuances of those provisional items that we'd like to reintroduce back into the project.
Perfect, thank you so much. Any discussion? Councilor Martin.
Thank you. The 750 to redesign the system, does that include all the equipment that'll be needed?
All the,
Additional heat pumps and
yes, that does include that.
what about
and
the electricity upgrades?
It would include all of that, yes, including the design 6% markup that the sub-consultant was suggesting. It's additional heat pumps, it's larger air conditioning units, it's more pipes, the reassessment of the pipes that flow from A to B. It's a lot of embedded work.
And is that in the budget that was approved for?
We were approved for that, yes. There was additional funds through the chair for the re-engineering to net zero standards to include the 3rd floor and so on. Yes, this would be in addition to the additional funds that we asked for. And the reason for that is because we built to net zero standards. We asked the engineer to do that.
Okay. Can that 750 be applied to the 900,000 to upgrade the existing roof?
So the 750,000 hasn't even been provided. We haven't formalized any work.
Well,
effort
it was in the budget, you said it was.
The 750 is in addition to where we had an additional funding that was provided to the engineer for net zero, right? We gave them additional funding, a little bit of additional time. And now we're at the point where the building is net zero. 750,000 would be to change it from net zero to net zero ready. We don't have that in the budget currently. We would have to ask for that. For you.
Through the chair to you, Councillor Martin, yeah, in September twenty twenty-two, through that report, additional funds were granted to the project to design, to change the design to net zero, net zero carbon. So those funds have already been spent to bring the design up to net zero carbon design. Now, taking out the upgrade to the existing roof and the solar panels, the mechanical system needs to be redesigned again to be brought back. And then have larger air conditioners, more heat.
More heat pumps and so on. We're talking about thermal.
Okay, so my original question, my
Yes.
first question was, is the 750 in the budget? You said yes, but now you're saying it's not.
Oh, through the chair, the 750 would be in addition. It's not in the budget right now, no.
Okay.
All right.
So we're gonna need at least that much anyway,
Correct.
and to go with the upgrade to the existing roof and the solar panel installation is $400,000 more than that. And you say there's savings of 250,000 a year, so payback is less than 2 years. Why are we even considering the 750 when it doesn't make any sense? You end up with an inferior building and higher operating costs.
So through the chair, that's correct. I think what happened was I wanted to be transparent in terms of costs and options for you. Because we have the CCAP, the Climate Change Action Plan, which speaks to net zero. But because we had to award and we had that tight contingency, I wanted to bring to the table options for you to decide whether you wanted net zero at this cost or net zero carbon and a longer lifespan. Yes, this is why we're recommending the option to include the roof and the solar.
Okay, so your recommendation then is to do
Absolutely,
the upgrade to the existing roof and the solar panel?
correct.
Okay. And is that in this, if we approve what's here, that goes forward?
Yes,
How is that gonna be funded?
Through the chair to you, Councillor Martin, so there is an additional line to be amended into the recommendation for that value, and it would be funded through the issuance of debentures.
And will those debentures be paid with the savings that we expect?
I think operating budget and debentures come from two separate areas, but I can get clarification for you on that from the finance department. But I believe they come from two separate funds.
Yes.
through the chair, I believe that it's a split between development charges and debentures, so yes, you have to
Okay.
find that out.
Thank you.
In addition to the value engineering exercise that we're doing, we're hoping to minimize the further costs, of course, presented to you at the next meeting.
Councilor Curry.
Thanks, Chair. Was the tender a lump sum bid?
With a lump sum stiff price, but it was, through the chair, it was a request for quotes, so yes, we were able to award to the lowest bidder. That is what the city standardizes, so from here now, we have flexibility in the cash allowance, there's some quotes in there that I was bringing in at a high point so we could lower those costs.
So it wasn't a public opening, then?
It was a public,
It was a public opening?
there's some bids and tenders.
So through the chair to you, Councilor McCreary, so it was a public offering for pre-qualified vendors. And so through that process, we narrowed down to 4 vendors. So then the tender or the request for quotation went out to those 4
Was it open in public?
No, it was
Okay.
open, but it has since been posted on our
So
public
Malone
website.
Blaney has no idea they left 20% on the table.
They do now. It has been posted on bids and tenders for about 2 weeks. So
Do we have
they,
any concerns with the fact that the next lowest bidder was 20% higher, and the third was 10% higher than that?
Through the chair, I anticipated that question, of course, when the 3 bids came in there, you could see the spread, it was obvious. But we can't talk too much because those bids are still confidential, but I know that there's assurances, Milo Blamey has been in construction for 42 years. They've done over 750 institutional, recreational, commercial, industrial projects at 1 billion. They're well reputed in the industry, and they also have built the county of Brant,
Okay.
RCMP and so on.
You haven't seen a job ad for a new estimator at the Little Lane?
No.
Okay,
Now, we've briefly, through the chair, briefly talked to Will Blamey and seem to be on board. They have some equipment that they own. They have laborers that are in-house and so on. I'm sure that there's more we can discuss with them. We're just still in the infancy of this relationship and signing the contract at this time, so forthcoming further information from the value engineering kickoff meeting.
City of Brantford contract management will be hard asked, and there won't be any Little Lane making up that 20% in extras.
Right. So through the chair, that's my job, is to make sure change orders started, contemplated change notices, we've asked them to have
Sure.
software that's transparent, that shows
Yeah.
6-week look ahead, full planning. We did quite a bit of front end work on the contract to ensure all change orders are approved through the city's PM singularly,
So now the roof insulation seems to be the sticking point, is that correct?
through the chair, it is.
Okay,
because it's
so,
a big surface.
so if the roof that we were originally planning to install is 100%, what is the existing roof?
100% in terms of.
That's the ideal. The new roof is the ideal. So the existing roof represents what percent of the ideal?
Oh, I would say it represents. 25% of what we actually need.
We need what, 40?
We need, the roof, through the chair, the walls are about 40 value. The roof can be upwards to 80, so it's an inverted roof that's been designed.
What
But
does
we
that
have
mean?
it's a bitumen, modified bitumen.
Sorry.
Roof. Yeah,
Okay.
some of it will remain intact and be applied in addition to what's there now.
Yeah.
But we have parapets that have thermal bridging that transfer down to the walls. They have to be removed and those are outside of their work effort right now. They're advising us that since that's been removed as a provisional item, that those pieces will remain at a lower R value than
Okay.
what they're putting on the walls.
So you're expecting then designed HVAC system to produce twice as much as it would do with the new roof, basically.
Through the chair, it would have to absolutely be recalculated because of that heat loss on the biggest surface in the building.
And if you just put in a couple of really big natural gas
Yeah.
furnaces, what's that cost?
Well, through the chair, we do have heat that comes in through natural gas and it operates at -10
Yeah.
in most 3 months.
Okay.
It would be just as difficult as your building is now, built in 1991.
Fortunately, if the climate alters, very expensive.
It
Yes.
is, but, you have a building automation through the chair, you have a building automation system that can be, at peak performance when it's in operation. It takes time, but you can get there.
So did you talk to Andy McMahon and tell him he's not getting the $500,000 already?
Through the chair to you, Councilor McCurry, yes, we've been speaking with Andy McMahon, Michael Bradley, and Joelle as well.
Okay,
And he is receptive to this, he is in
Okay.
agreement.
okay. So the total, we're looking for an extra 2.1 mil. So,
That's correct.
and that doesn't give us any additional wiggle room, right? We don't have any contingency.
Doesn't.
So through the chair, on table, page 5, table 2, we did put item, number 5 at $1 million contingency. This is
Okay.
a small contingency, but there is a little bit of room there for soft costs and certain unknowns. And that's actually what we applied the building permit credit to.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Davis, go ahead.
Oh, you're on mute, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Councilors McCurry and Martin asked the questions that I was going to ask. And I think the course of action is pretty obvious. Why would we build a net carbon ready building when it's only going to cost $381,000 to go fully net carbon zero. And you have the savings of $250,000 a year. So over the 20-year life of this building, which is at least 20, that's a lot of money. So I would like to move, seeking a seconder, the draft resolution that's in our report, which is that the additional budget of, where are we going? Requirement of $2,131,000 for building net zero carbon for the Brantford Police Service Facility Redevelopment Project be funded from the issuance of debentures, and that we move forward with those two options to have them included in the contract, which is the roof rebuild and the solar panels.
All right, your seconder is Counselor Martin. Any discussion on that? No, not that. I don't think so, is it? Because it's only our, yes, the original one on the
That's
floor.
the recommended amendment, it's not in 4.1. So it's amended 4.1, see, you go to second for all feature.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, I thought it was. Yes, you guys put on the records. I thought I was like, sure I was right this time.
Point of order, we tuning in virtually can't hear that conversation. It's all
Sorry,
jumbled.
they thought it wasn't on the floor, 4.1, so they didn't think you could move your amendment yet, but it actually is on the floor. So your amendment's fine and you have a seconder. So now we're gonna take discussion on your amendment.
Okay.
Okay, any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All in favor? And that carries. Any discussion as amended now?
Madam Chair, you know, that was unanimous.
That was unanimous, you know. Any discussion as amended? Nope, so I'll call the question on the motion as amended. All in favor? And that also carries unanimously, so we're all set. All right. So there are no resolutions, no notices of motion, so now we can adjourn. Oh, do I-
Through the chair, we need the mover and seconder for the minutes.
So moved.
And seconded by?
Everybody, here we go.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, so now I can adjourn.
Call
I'll have
the
to call it. All in favor? Okay,
vote.
and now I can adjourn the meeting, so I guess I'm in a hurry tonight, sorry guys. All right, thanks everybody, glad we got that all set, yeah, have a good night.
Thank you.